الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله وحده والصلاة والسلام على سيد الحبيب المصطفى وعلى آله وصحبه نجم الهدى قادة التقى. أما بعد، فقال عز وجل في القرآن المجيد والفرقان الحميد بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وقضى ربك ألا تعبدوا إلا إياه وبالوالدين إحسانا. وقال حبيب الله صلى الله عليه وسلم الجنة تحت أقدام الأمهات. وقال حبيب الله صلى الله عليه وسلم رضا الرب في رضا الوالد وسخط الرب في سخط الوالد، أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والتسليم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. Respected ulama, honorable elders, and most importantly, my young friends, it's a great favor of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He allows a person to spend just a few moments in the masjid. I'm sure you've heard many a time that Sheikh Rubel say that those who engage themselves in the remembrance of Allah, those who find themselves in the gatherings in which the blessed name of Allah and His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam take place, mentioned, نَزَلَ عَلَيْهِمُ السَّكِينَةِ, that Allah's tranquility descends upon them. وَغَشِيَتْ عَلَيْهِمُ الرَّحْمَةِ, and mercy envelops them. So it is a great blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we're not at present engaged in the disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Everybody should say Alhamdulillah. With regards to the topic, my assumption is that the designer, Moulana Asif, I don't know if you may have had some kind of hand in this. I'm assuming some inspiration was taken from Willy Wonka. Okay? It was the golden ticket. I remember when I saw the poster, when Moulana sent me the poster, that's the first thing that came to my mind. The title is The Golden Ticket to Jannah. And my friends, what can I tell you about Jannah? If only this topic was about Jannah. If only this topic was about Jannah. So let me tell you just a few things. My Rabb Jalla Jalaluhu wa Amma Nawaluhu, He says that وَمَن يَعْمَلْ مِنَ الصَّالِحَاتِ مِنْ ذَكَرٍ أَوْ أُنْثَى وَهُوَ مُؤْمِنٌ, that those, be they male, be they female, the condition is that they are a believer and they do good deeds. فَأُولَٰئِكَ يَدْخُلُونَ الْجَنَّةِ وَلَا يُظْلَمُونَ نَقِيرًا. What words does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala use? He says that it is those people who believe in Allah, who do good deeds, they will enter paradise for eternity. Eternity. وَلَا يُظْلَمُونَ نَقِيرًا. This is what is astonishing. They will not be oppressed. They will not be deprived a naqir. Now, let us go into this word just for a moment. The ulama, the students of knowledge, Moulana Asif, Ustad Saifuddin, you guys will know that naqir, everybody, you've had dates, yes or no? Khajur, we've had dates, yes? So when you split a date, what's inside? A seed. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so now, do you eat a date for the seed or do you eat it for its flesh? For the actual fruit? The fruit. So now, what do you do with the seed? You throw it away. It's of no use to us. The casing of the seed. Have you ever looked at a seed of a date? You have this little casing, a little piece of flesh. Allah says, never mind the fruit, never mind the date, never mind the seed. The casing of the seed we will not deprive you to that extent. We will reward you in full. When you go to paradise, your reward, the benefit that you gain, the pleasures that you gain, you will be repaid in full. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He continues, He says, what does He say? فِيهَا أَنْهَارٌ مِّن مَاءٍ غَيْرِ عَاصٍ. In it contains rivers. You see, there is no worry for pollution. You don't need to worry about what's happening, what's going inside your body. Why? Because the water in paradise, it doesn't alter. It is pure. Allah continues to say, وَأَنْهَارٌ مِّن لَبَنٍ لَمْ يُتَغَيَّرْ طَعْمُهُ. There will be rivers of milk. Its taste will never go off. Its taste will only increase. Allah carries on to say that وَأَنْهَارٌ مِّنْ خَمْرٍ لَذَّةٍ لِلشَّارِبِينَ. In it will be rivers of wine that will cause no distress or drunkenness. لَذَّةٍ لِلشَّارِبِينَ. It will be a delicacy for those who drink. There's no need for me to go into much detail here, Moulana, and the ulama here, they can go into more detail. Allah continues to say, وَأَنْهَارٌ مِّنْ عَسَلٍ مُصَفَّى. In it there will be rivers of pure honey, clean. Whatever you eat, it will not cause you any harm to your body. But you see, in this world, we undergo much stress. There are times where even sitting alone, you're not at peace. Any situation that you find yourself, you might have some kind of stress. You might have something that you're worried about. For the youngsters, it might be exams. It might be, peer pressure. What's my friend going to say? Allah forbid. It might be, what are United going to do? Are they going to, where are they going to finish in the table? But Allah says that, in paradise, this is your state. مُتَّكِئِينَ فِيهَا عَلَى الْأَرَائِكِ. That you will be reclining as kings do. You will be reclining as kings do. عَلَى الْأَرَائِكِ. Upon embellished couches, upon embellished sofas. وَلَا يَرَوْنَ فِيهَا شَمْسًا وَلَا زَمْهَرِيرًا. There will be no cold, there will be no sun, there will be no heat to bother you. Your environment will be one of total bliss. But what else can we say? What does our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he says, and I will end the discussion of paradise with this, and I will move on to the main topic. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he says, وَعِدَّتْ لِعِبَادِ. Allah in a hadith al-Qudsi, he says that Allah says, وَعِدَّتْ لِعِبَادِيَ الصَّالِحِينَ. I have prepared for my righteous servant, مَا لَا عَيْنٌ رَأَتْ. That which no eye has ever seen. وَلَا أُذُنٌ سَمِعَتْ. Nor any ear has ever heard of. This thing is making me a bit of a pain. Shall we just leave it like this? Shall we leave it, or is it necessary? Sorry, I think it might be. It's fine. No problem. Just to give some advice, one of my ustads, Mufti Ikram, Damat Barakatuhum al-Aliyah, he once asked us, in Dalu, just to a slight deviation from the topic. When we're in class, we have this train track that's just beyond our classroom, beyond our institution. So there are times where the noise it makes is deafening. So Mufti Sahib, he once asked us that, what do you guys do? Because it happens every day when we're in class. And for about 10 seconds, the speaker, the teacher, they'll stop speaking. They won't say anything, but you can't hear anything. It's so loud. So he said, what do you do? Just in these little moments where there's, there might be a disturbance. So, some people just say, we sit down, we just wait. So he said that, agar mujhko puche, main to durud padta hu. If you ask me, I just read durud. And let me tell you something. He's telling us There are certain ulama in the past that, when there was a small delay in whatever they were doing. So for instance, when they were writing, they would use pieces of wood. And sometimes as you write, the pens or the wooden sticks that they would use, they would need sharpening. So he mentioned that just this little delay, so like we've just had a little delay, this is something for me to plant in your minds, the value of time. So the ulama of the past, they valued their time to such an extent, as Mufti Sabi mentioned, that just this occasion where they're just sharpening their wooden sticks so they can write. Some ulama, just in those few moments, it might be 10 minutes, they would read up to 1,000 durud sharifs. Just by waiting, they're just sharpening the tool, but they've got nothing else to do. So sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So my friends, the point I'm trying to get at here is, whenever there's any delay, then it's best, alhamdulillah, there was no noise here, but engage yourself with the durud sharif, dhikr. This is a principle of life. We'll get to that later, inshallah. But anyhow, with regards to paradise, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he says, وَلَا أُذُنٌ سَمِعَتْ, that no ear has ever heard of. And he continues to say, وَمَا لَا خَطَرَ عَلَىٰ قَلْبِ بَشَرٍ, that no mind, no heart, no consciousness of man has ever conjured. No man has ever even thought about the delicacies, the enjoyment of paradise. And you see what is astonishing, what is incredible is the use of the language that the Prophet ﷺ engages in. He says, وَمَا خَطَرَ عَلَىٰ قَلْبِ بَشَرٍ. He says, khatara, it comes for a vibration. So the thought process for thinking, the electrical signals, the waves that are produced whilst you think, or before you establish a thought, that hasn't even taken place. With regards to paradise, that hasn't even taken place. Never mind a thought. Can you imagine? Can you imagine what is prepared for those who believe in Allah, those who do good deeds, those who, inshallah, those delicacies that are waiting for us, inshallah. So now, the reality is, my friends, that each and every single one of us has this golden ticket. Each and every single one of us has this golden ticket. Do we not testify? Do we not say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah? Do we not say Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam? Yes or no? The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he says that man shahida an la ilaha illallah wa anna Muhammadur Rasulullah harrama alayhi nar. That the one who testifies, the one who believes that there is no God but Allah. I, Muhammad, I am the messenger of Allah sallallahu, that Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is the messenger of Allah, harrama alayhi nar. The fire, it is forbidden for him, it is haram for him. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he also says that وَمَنْ مَاتَ يَعْلَمُ أَنَّ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ وَمُحَمَّدٌ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ وَوَجَبَتْ عَلَيْهِ الْجَنَّةِ يَدْخُلُهُ الْجَنَّةِ فِي حَدِيثٍ آخر. That the one who dies, and he dies knowing that there is one God, there is no God but Allah, and that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he is his messenger, he is his final prophet, that Jannah is first for him, it is wajib for him, it is necessary. So the reality is, my young friends, that each and every single one of us, we have this golden ticket. Say Alhamdulillah. And that is Iman. Our hearts are the repositories of Iman. Our hearts contain Iman. But you see, in the ayat that I prayed before you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He made a caveat. He put a condition. وَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِنَ الصَّالِحَاتِ. That Jannah, it is for those, number one, they have to believe. Of course, alhamdulillah, we all believe. Number two, it is to do good deeds. Now, the avenues of which a person can do good deeds are many. However, today we shall only focus upon one. We shall only focus upon one. And that is our parents. That is our parents. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, and I will go into a bit of detail here, that وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says that your Lord, He has decreed, أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ, that you do not worship anyone but Him. Now, let us go into this for a short moment. Let us go into a bit of detail. You know, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He offers a command, when He gives a command, you see, you know, when a person is commanded, there are three things that needs to be understood. There are three things that a person needs to think about. Number one is, what is the command? Number one, what is the command? Number two is, who is given the command? Number three is, who is being commanded. So now, the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses a command, He says, وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا, that do not worship anyone but Allah. It's a command that creates emphasis. It creates importance. So for instance, my dear friend Ustad Saif, if I was to say to him, Saif, would you mind if we went, to the shop? If we went, let's have a kick about. How important do you think that is? How much emphasis is there? Is there a lot of emphasis? Yes or no? Yes or no? No. So this is a request. He's my friend. But now, if I was to say now I've got my student and I tell him that Muhammad, Fahim, we need to go to Shapran Masjid in Manchester. We have to go. There's no choice in the matter. Is that the same as saying that, would you mind if we went? Can you take me? Is there a difference? The fact that Allah uses a command in the Quran, and my friends, fall in love with the Quran. Fall in love with the Quran, it is beautiful. You will never satiate. You will never satiate in reading the Quran, reciting the Quran, reading a translation of the Quran. So the fact that Allah uses a command, it creates importance. Then what He does is He establishes a relationship. He says, Rabbuka, your Lord. Your Lord. So now, Moulana Rubel, he said that Allah is Razzaq. Rabb, when Allah uses Rabb, it means that you are totally dependent upon Allah. Your rizq, nothing, you are totally dependent. Allah is ultimately independent. Everything that you do, it is by your Rabb. He is your nourisher. He's the one who sustains you. So Allah is telling us that, look, Allah is telling you, He's using the present tense, that the Lord that sustains you, that nourishes you, He is commanding you that Allah ta'budu illa iya. Do not worship anybody but Him. Now, this we all know. And look at the kind of emphasis Allah uses. Look at the kind of language Allah uses. So now, automatically, anything that comes after this, it also has a great deal of importance. It has a great deal of importance. Straight away, Allah says, وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. In the same sentence that Allah uses with so much emphasis that worship Allah, none besides Him. Also, and be good to your parents. Be good to your parents. That's the kind of emphatic language Allah uses. That's how important obedience, being good to our parents, is. To continue, Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu, the great Sahabi, he mentions that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there are two things are always mentioned together. He says, Ati'ullah wa Ati'ur Rasul. Whenever Allah says, obey Allah, He always says as well, obey the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. If you want to obey Allah, you have to obey the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Then He says, the second place is, Aqimus salah wa atu zakat. Pray your salah 5 times a day. Also pay your zakat. Whenever He says aqimus salah, whenever He says pray your salah, He also says pay your zakat. Then He says, an ashkurli wal walidayk. Be grateful to me and your who? Parents. Whenever Allah says that be grateful to me, you also have to be grateful to your parents. It's as though, and the Mufassirun, they mention that a person who is not grateful to his parents, and he can never be grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, you see, who can tell me why? Why does Allah have so much emphasis? In another hadith, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he says that Rida Rabbi fi Rida al-Walidi, that if you want Allah to be happy with you, If you want to enter paradise, you need Allah's happiness. But if you want Allah to be happy with you, you need the happiness of your father. And the happiness of your father, it is the same as the happiness of Allah. Especially to the youngsters here, keep this in mind. Why? Because your blood runs hot. You know, you're very quick to answer. Trust me, I know. We've been in the same situation as you. Kitab Saif. Yes? We're not angels as well. We've been in the same situation as you. So we know that, sometimes your dad might say something and you might just, you might just respond. But we'll get to that. But you see, the question is why? Why is it that Allah says, وَبِالْ وَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا and أَشْكُرْ لِي وَوَالِدَيْكِ? Why does it وَلِلْ وَالِدَيْكِ? Whenever he talks about himself, he also talks about the parents. Why? Who can tell me? One of the youngsters, put your hands up. You tell me, have a think. Who can tell me? Why does Allah place so much importance to our parents? What do they do? What do they go through? Tell me. One of the youngsters, come on. Nobody's putting their hands up. Is there nobody that's going to... Alhamdulillah. Go on with that. Childbirth. Fantastic. Subhanallah. I'm assuming you don't have an experience of that yet. No? Okay? Khair. It's sacrifice. Sacrifice. One of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says that حَمَلَتْهُ أُمُّهُ كُرْحًا, that his mother or your mother, she bears you kurhan, with agony, with distaste, with difficulty. وَوَضَعَتْهُ أُمُّهُ كُرْحًا, she gives birth to him with hardship and difficulty. حَمَلَتْهُ أُمُّهُ وَحْنًا عَلَى وَحْنٍ, that she bears him with stress upon stress. And let me give you some stats. Let me give you some scientific facts. As Moulana said, I myself, I come from a science background. Before I studied in Darul Uloom, I was studying at the university. I graduated from the University of Manchester, and I have a great interest in science. So our mothers, and obviously I didn't actually realize that today is Mother's Day until yesterday. I thought, I even asked Moulana, I'm not joking, I asked Moulana Rubel, hello, have you done it because of Mother's Day? So I said, when is Mother's Day? He goes, it's tomorrow. I only knew because my wife told me that it's probably because of Mother's Day. Well, khair, alhamdulillah, it might have been a very good coincidence, I don't know. But let's focus on our mothers for now. Our mothers, to give you an example. When they bear us, in the early stages of their pregnancy, they vomit quite regularly. This is medical facts that you can Google. And you see, this is quite, married men, fathers, you will know this, and this is quite obvious. That you have morning sickness, severe vomiting. But another thing that most people don't realize is that at the time of pregnancy, women, they usually have dental problems as well. Who can haphazard a guess? Who can tell me what happens to their teeth? It becomes soft, I'll tell you. It becomes softer. Why? Sorry?
You lose the calcium for the baby.
There's that, of course. But I'm talking about the vomit. Who can tell me? Where does the vomit come from? It comes from where? The stomach. What's inside your stomach? The pH of your stomach is 2.5. It's like a car battery. It's very, very powerful. You know what happens when women vomit? Your mother, when she vomited, that because of the acid in her vomit, her teeth began to soften. You see, another thing that we men, we don't appreciate is that they undergo back pain, severe back pain. Why? Because the weight causes strain. The average baby, I can tell you in the UK, the average baby weighs 3.5 kg. That's 7.6 pounds. 7.6 pounds. Can you imagine continuously carrying that weight around? What it does to your back? Their ligaments, they soften. Why? Because they're preparing for birth, where they can have muscular problems. Also, another thing we don't realize, may Allah reward our mothers, that whilst pregnant, because of the hormonal changes, their urinary processes change. The way they go to the toilet changes. It causes infection. Another thing, due to hormonal changes, is that they can't go to the toilet properly. They become constipated. That's the kind, when Allah says, حَمَلَتْهُ أُمُّهُ كُرْحًا وَوَضَعْتُهُ كُرْحًا وَحْنًا عَلَى وَحْنٍ. This is what we know now. Allah's telling us 1400 years ago that your mothers, your parents, they undergo severe difficulty. Value them. And let's carry on. We've talked about some of the physical difficulties and hardships that they undergo. And some of the fathers, you're going to be laughing and you'll be thinking, I've got my son now, I've got some ammunition. The average cost, the Guardian, the newspaper Guardian, in 2016, so 2-3 years ago, so the research is fairly new. Okay, it's not very old, it's only 3 years. It published an article, a fantastic article. Moulana, I'll send it, inshallah. You can, if anybody wants to have a read, the fathers here, especially, it's a good ammunition for your children, okay? It mentioned that, the average cost of child rearing, of taking care of one child, so let's just assume, according to the research, that from birth to the age of 21, you are responsible for that child. Do you know how much it costs one child for everything? Don't say millions, obviously, but give me a guess. One of the youngsters, give me a guess. The youngsters' wife was, you need to understand and value your parents. Who can give me one guess? Anyone? Go on. 50 grand. Try 230,000. Like I said, this is research that you can read up on. I'll send you the link. Moulana, I'll send you the link. 230,000. Our parents for one child. One child. The education, going to school, your lunch money, the books, your uniform, from nursery, primary, secondary, college, university, they will spend approximately 74,000 solely for your education. 74,000 pounds. This is what our parents go through. And remember, this is just the average, and most of us, we will come from modest backgrounds. We're not super rich, we come from immigrant families. We're second generation, if we're lucky, third generation. 74,000 is what our parents will go through. Let's carry on, let me give you 2 more. No, let me give you 3 more. On clothing, the average person on their child, they will spend 10,000 for those duration of those years, just on clothes. Just on clothes. What's that safe? You still want to get married? Just on clothes. Pocket money. You come, you'll ask, Ma, I want some, abami, I want to go to the shop, what a burger, I want to go play football, I don't know what it is. Just on pocket money, guys, listen, yeah? Remember these, okay? Our parents, wallah, the sacrifice they have for us, especially our Muslim parents. Why? Because they send us to maktab as well. Remember, this doesn't take into consideration the fact that we go to maktab. So just on pocket money, wallah, pocket money, they will spend 4,600 for that one child. 4,600. The average person, for the first 4 years of that baby's life, the average family, the average parent, they will spend 1/3 of their salary on their child. 1/3. Just today, I was speaking to a friend of mine, a Moulana, and he said, he missed my call. I said, Moulana, I said, forgive me, man. I'm just, Mariam, I'm having to, I'm feeding her. I'm feeding her, so I'll call you back later, inshallah. I thought, subhanAllah. That's the kind of difficulty our parents go through. Okay? So now, I don't want to go into the disobedience. Why? Because I want us to be positive. I want us to have a positive outlook. But you see, just to highlight the serious nature of disobeying our parents, of being ill towards our parents, to be harmful, na'udhu billah, abusive to our parents, I will narrate to you one incident. It is a narration that is found in Bukhari, Imam Bukhari mentions this in his Sahih. It is the incident, the ulama, you will know, the students of knowledge, you will know, it's a very famous incident, it's a beautiful incident, a very powerful narration. Where the Prophet ﷺ, he informed his Sahaba of a great worshipper by the name of Jurayj. By the name of Jurayj. Keep this in mind. Jurayj. Jurayj, he belonged, according to most ulama, from the Banu Israel. The Prophet ﷺ mentions from the Banu Israel. People of the past. And he was famous for his level of devotion to Allah. The way he would pray, he was famous amongst his town and his city. You see, Jurayj, he was a hermit. He was a monk. So day and night, he totally divorced himself of the world. He had no inclination towards a worldly gain, towards amusement, towards play and entertainment. He at all times would engage himself in salah or dhikrullah. He would worship Allah. That was his occupation. That's the only thing he was interested in. So the Prophet ﷺ, he mentions upon one occasion that Jurayj's mother came. Jurayj's mother came, and the Prophet says of the Sahaba, they say, the ulama, they mention that she did this, she was climbing, she was ascending. It was his monastery, you can say. It was on an elevated place. And she could see him praying. So she started squinting. And she called out, "Ya Jurayj, Jurayj, it's me, your mother." So the Prophet ﷺ, he mentions that Jurayj at the time, he thought to himself that, "Usalli aw ujibaha?" Should I pray or should I respond to my mother? So he thought, I'm praying. It can't be that important. I'll carry on. So this happened on one occasion. Another occasion, where again, Jurayj was engaged in salah. He was engaged in the worship of Allah. He was engaged in the worship of Allah. Remember, he's not doing anything bad. He's engaged in the worship of Allah. So Jurayj, again, his mother calls out. And he thinks to himself, either I pray or I respond to my mother. And this happened on a few occasions, one after the other. So on the last occasion, his mother, she had enough. And wallah, she made a curse. May Allah protect us. She said that, Allahumma la tumithu hatta turiyahu wujuhul mumisat. That, oh Allah, look at the power of her words. That, oh Allah, do not cause him to die. Do not give him death until you have shown him the faces of evil women. I don't want to translate mumisat simply because it's not appropriate in the Muslim. That do not cause him death until he sees the faces of evil women. Wujuhul mumisat. So at the time, she went, remember, tell me again, what was Jurayj doing? This is important. What was he doing? Guys, he was worshipping Allah. Okay? So now you see Jurayj. Jurayj, he was famous in his city. He was famous in his town. And he was very well liked. And on one occasion, there was a gathering. And certain people, they started singing the praises of Jurayj. He's such a great worshipper. He's an ascetic. He's not inclined towards the world. He doesn't have anything to do with the world. He just focuses upon Allah. It is mentioned in the hadith that in that gathering there was an evil woman, and this woman, she thought to herself that I will be able to melt Jurayj. I will be able to seduce Jurayj. So now, and the people, they thought, okay, this is there's a challenge. Okay, let's see what you can do. So, to sort of, not to go into any detail, but she came to Jurayj and she started to entice him. And Jurayj, being a worshipper of Allah, he disinclined and he told her to go away. And this woman, being disgraced, being shown otherwise that Jurayj will not engage in any kind of evil act, she went and she engaged herself with the shepherd. Okay, she did whatever she had to do with the shepherd. And a few months passed, and she brought a baby to the people of the city. And she said, look, do you remember on so and so occasion that you were talking of the high qualities, the attributes of Jurayj? Look, this is his child before you. And so what they did was they went and destroyed his monastery. They went and destroyed his monastery. And Jurayj at the time, he was engaged in worship. Even at the time of the destruction of his monastery, he was engaged in worship, so he didn't know what was going on. So he asked them, what's going on? Why are you guys destroying my monastery for? So they said, look, this is your child. This is your child. So there is a very important point. I'm just going to quickly finish the incident and I'll come back to my main point. That this is your child. So Jurayj, he started smiling. And he engaged himself. He had 2 rakats, salah. Mufassirun, the muhaddithun, they mentioned that he engaged in salah. And he stroked the forehead of the baby. And he stroked the belly of the baby. And he said that, Man abuk ya walad? Man abuk? Who's your father? Okay, so Moulana, you can go into a lot more. This is such a powerful, a beautiful incident. Many lessons can be deprived. For instance, the fact that the miracles of the awliya, the curse of a person's mother, the effects of dua. So anyway, that's for a different occasion. Moulana, inshallah, can go through that with you. So the child, it spoke up. And the ulama, they mentioned that there were 3 children that spoke in the cradle. One being Isa, the second being this one, this child. So when Jurayj said, Man abuk, he said, Ar-Ra'i. That my father, he is the shepherd. He is the shepherd. So then when the people witnessed this great miracle, they said that, Ya Jurayj, Nubni sawma'ataka min dhahabi. That, oh Jurayj, seeing his piety, seeing this miracle before them, they said that we're going to build a monastery out of gold for you. Out of gold. You see, and one of the signs of the walis of Allah, of the awliya of Allah, is simplicity. Is they're simple, they don't have any inclination towards any material or wealth. So he said, La illa bitrin. Restore it the way it was. I want it out of mud, out of stone. I want it out of brick. I want it the way it is. The way it once was. Not out of gold. So my point is this. The Prophet ﷺ, he said that if the mother of Jurayj, if she had cursed that he engages in an illicit relationship, that he engages in an unlawful and haram activity, then he probably would have engaged in that because of the power of his mother's dua. So now, remember, was he engaged in disobeying Allah? Yes or no? What was he doing? He was worshipping. Yet, because his mother had called him, he had fallen into fitna, that an evil woman came and visited him. Imagine, this is a very pious person, a very Allah person, yet he himself, because he didn't respond to his mother's call, Allah afflicted him with the trial that he afflicted him with. Now you and I, can you imagine, never mind worshipping Allah at the time, but if our mothers are calling us out of need and we're too busy playing Fortnite, we're too busy playing, watching TV, or Allah forbid we're busy doing something that we shouldn't be doing, what will be our state? What will be our state? And the fuqaha, they mention that with regards to salah, if a person is engaged in nafal salah, remember when you pray salah, who's it for? Is it for the creation or for the creator? It's for the creator, it's for Allah. But the fuqaha, they mention that in nafal salah, you should break your salah, you should break it. And you respond to your mother's call. If it's farz, then you quickly finish it. You quickly finish and you respond to a call. So now, time is becoming short. I don't want to go into, I just want to leave you with some practical advices. Number one, with regards to our parents, first and foremost, fulfill their rights. Be kind to them. Be good to them. Listen to them, especially the youngsters. Why? Because there are times where we might think that, we know better than our parents. But I can tell you this, And it's mentioned in Tafsir Nisapuri also, that you know the words of your parents, the words of our parents, it is arguably, they are the only people when they advise you, when they admonish you, that it's unadulterated. There's no bias, there's no agenda. For instance, I might have a friend who's advising me on something, or he might be telling me something, but he might not be totally honest. I might have a work colleague, I might have an associate, I might have an acquaintance, that you know what, although yes, alhamdulillah, he wants good for me, but he might not always want me to be better than him. Yes or no? But you see our parents, and as the Shaykh al-Hadith Muhammad Salim Dawud al-Barakatum al-Aliyah, he mentions that every parent, it is their desire that their children excel them. Very few people will desire that for you, except for your parents. That in every situation, I want goodness for this child of mine. So hence why, especially for the youngsters, our parents, they will never say anything, or in most cases, or do anything that will be against our benefit. It will always be for us. So number one, be good to them, be kind to them. So, a couple more things. With regards to our mothers, that we can do in terms of showing kindness. You know, our mothers, have a habit of hugging them. Have a habit of kissing them. Have a habit of complimenting them. I'll give you an example. My mom, the last thing I do before I go to sleep is I'll kiss my mother's forehead. That's one of the last things that I do. And so that, you know, this might be the last time I see her. Who knows? You don't know. How do you know that you're going to wake up? How do we know? But have something, please, that your mother give, make yourselves, fill your hearts with their azmat, with their greatness, with their majesty. And how you do that, you have to be proactive. You can't just sit around. Call them by nice names. You know, alhamdulillah, I'm assuming most of us here are Bengali, Pakistani, and you know, just to say something that in our Bengali language that we say, we call our mothers Maizi. Umma, Shunarzan, Zan. These are beautiful terms. These are beautiful. Use these terms. You know, the ulama, they mentioned, some of my teachers, they went, you know, mom, dad, of course, nothing wrong with, what's the thingy in it? So daddy, mommy, fine, especially if you're older. Yeah? But, you know, use words that are loving. Okay? Your fathers, now this is very important. That sahibul makan ahaqqu bihi. That if your father, he has a special place, and my dad, he has a place at home where he likes to sit. So everybody knows in our family, that if my dad's in the room, let him sit there. Just one chair, and if there's somebody sat there, if my sister sat there as an example, I'll tell her, you know, get up, come on, get up, that's his place. Let him sit there. So for instance, if you're myself as an example, sometimes I might be reading something, I might be sat down, I might have my feet up. If my dad walks in, they go down. To the extent that I've heard my husband say, Hazrat Muhammad Salim Dawud, that whenever his father would call him, that if he was reclining, he would never answer, but he'd sit up. That's adab, that's the kind of respect that we need. We need azmat for our parents. Carrying on. Speak to them gently. Allah, Moulana, he mentioned, he recited so beautifully that وَلَا تَقُلْ أُفٍّ لَهُمَا. Don't even say uff. The Mufassirun, they mentioned, you know, uff. It's not even a word, it's a sound. You know, when you get frustrated, sometimes you do that, innit? You might do that. That's what uff is. It's a sound. Allah says, وَلَا تَقُلْ أُفٍّ. Don't even say uff. Don't even mumble at them. And yes, I know, there might be times where, especially to the youngsters, that your parents, you might be saying something to them, you might be trying to explain something to them, and they're not listening. But that, I swear by Allah, gives you no right to be abusive. Let's take an example of Ibrahim alayhi salam. You know, and as a side note, you know, engage yourself. A piece of advice, don't waste time. So Moulana, they're doing so much work here. He has circles of hadith. Increase your knowledge. Devote yourselves to the study of the deen of Allah, especially the life of the Prophet ﷺ and those of the Anbiya. Because from there we will take pearls. Ibrahim alayhi salam, he is from the Ulul Azmi min al-Rusul. He is from the elite class of messengers. And you see, for a messenger of Allah, it is haram. It is haram. My honorable teacher Mufti Shabbir Damat Barakatuhum al-Aliyah, when explaining the incident of Musa and Khidr, he once told us, now look, you can ask, those of you who will know, I'm sure most of us know, now why did Musa alayhi salam just stay quiet? Why didn't he stay quiet? It was Khidr had said to him that, look, you're not going to understand this now, I will explain. But there's a question. Musa alayhi salam was told that you might not understand this now, just be patient. So as a Mufti Shabbir, he says that it is haram for a Prophet of Allah to stay quiet, to stay silent, and in the apparent disobedience of Allah is taking place. So an haram act is taking place. So now let us go into the life of Ibrahim. Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam, you see, he was one of the mightiest messengers of Allah. And he was born into a place that had open polytheism, open shirk. And worst off is his father was Ba'i'ul Asnam. His father was the seller of the idols that people would worship. Can you imagine that you've been sent to a place to destroy, to destroy idol worship, but the person who is responsible, the main person who sells the idols is your father. Can you imagine the kind of difficulty he went through? That's why the Prophet ﷺ, he says, Ashaddun nas bala'an al-anbiya. That the people who are most severely tested, it is the anbiya. But you see his father, Ibrahim alayhi salam, he abuses him, he scolds him, he insults him. But how does Ibrahim alayhi salam, how does he respond? He says, Ya Abad, oh my beloved father, oh my beloved father. He never uses harsh or inappropriate language, even when his father abused him. So remember, alhamdulillah, most of us are never going to be in that situation. So even when you are frustrated, when we are frustrated, don't speak harshly with them. Do not speak harshly with them. Carrying on. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says, وَخْفِضْ لَهُمَا جَنَاحَ الذُّلِّ مِنَ الرَّحْمَةِ. That lower for them the wings of mercy. In your interaction with our parents, it should be one of mercy, it should be one of tolerance. To give you one example. No, let's move on to the last point, because time won't allow us. Number one was be kind to them. Fulfill their rights. Number two was speak and interact with them in a gentle manner. Number three is make dua for them. Pray for them. Those three things. Can we do this? Number one, fulfill their rights, be kind. Number two, be gentle, speak with honor, speak with respect. Number three, make dua. And let me give you one example. And you know, the end result of obedience is this. On one occasion, the Prophet ﷺ, he was asleep. He was asleep, and certain occasions, paradise would be opened up for him. He would see Jannah. And the Prophet ﷺ, he mentions that on one occasion, I found myself in Jannah. I was asleep and I found myself in Jannah, and I could hear somebody reciting Quran. I could hear somebody reciting Quran. Do you remember, this is where the Prophet is in Jannah. He's hearing Quran. And when he wakes up, he tells one of his wives, if I can recall, it might have been Aisha radiallahu anha, and he said that I heard the voice of Harith bin Nu'man. And he said that, I swear by Allah, this is only because he obeys his mother, he obeys his mother, he obeys his mother. He obeys his parents, he obeys his parents, he obeys his parents. Because he was obedient to his parents, the Prophet ﷺ, The Prophet ﷺ heard him reciting Quran in paradise. One more incident before I wrap up. You know, the Sahaba, what they went through, me and you will never go through. On one occasion, just to show you the kind of obedience that some of the Sahaba had for their parents, the incident of Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, where the Sahaba were undergoing great difficulty and starvation. And a load of dates had come into the presence of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, a bunch of dates. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, being self-sacrificing, being merciful as he was, he split the dates amongst all of his Sahaba, and the tally became 2 each. It came to 2 each. Each Sahabi had 2 each. Each Sahabi. So Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, may Allah have mercy upon him. I smile, why? Because a student of knowledge, Moulana Asif, one of the ulama, you will know the amount of times you hear his name. To love him is to be natural. It's only natural to love Abu Hurairah. So Abu Hurairah, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he realized that he's only eaten 1. How many did the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam give? 2. You know, the Prophet said, Ya Abu Hurairah, why are you only eating 1 for? So he said, O Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, my mother's at home. She also hasn't eaten. My mother's at home. She also hasn't eaten. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, witnessing this, he said that, you know, you have both of them. I'm going to give you another 2 more for your mom. I will give another 2 more for your mother. But let me tell you, it doesn't finish here. That Abu Hurairah's mother, at the time, for most of her life, she was a Muslim. Abu Hurairah himself only accepted Islam 3 years before the demise of the Prophet ﷺ. 3 years before the demise of the Prophet ﷺ, in 7th Hijri. So Abu Hurairah, on one occasion, this is the mother of Abu Hurairah. I mentioned that, you know, even if they are, our parents will never, alhamdulillah, they won't be abusive. But even if they are, to be gentle, let me tell you about the mother of Abu Hurairah, radiallahu anhu. On one occasion, he mentions that, Ya Rasulullah, you know, he started crying. He came into the gathering of the Prophet ﷺ and he started crying. And his mother, she wasn't a Muslim. She didn't accept Islam. And he would always say, O Messenger of Allah, please, make dua that she becomes accepted. You know, she used to abuse, she used to scold him, she used to swear him, she used to, be harsh with him, because he had accepted Islam. And when he would call her towards him, when he would invite her towards Islam, she would reject him, she would rebuff him. On one occasion, it so happened, remember the incident of the date, that even his mother, even though she would scold him, she would abuse him, he didn't forget his mother. Now listen to this incident. The Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, he came to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam upon one occasion, he started crying, and he cried profusely. And he said, Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, that my mother says words about you that I cannot think about, never mind bring to my tongue. She says words about you. She says words about the Prophet, about Allah, but I can't express. And it's for this reason that he became so worrisome. He became so sad. And the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, Ya Abu, don't worry. And he made a special dua. He made a special dua. Oh Allah, ihdi Abi Hurairah. Oh Allah, guide the mother of Abu Hurairah. Guide the mother of Abu Hurairah. And it so happened that Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, he went home and he tried to open the door, but the door was wedged in. The door was wedged in. And his mother, she called out saying, Abu Hurairah, hold yourself, relax, don't come in now. I was, remember, they lived in small huts, in small buildings, small little huts, and he could hear water dripping. Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, he could hear water dripping. She was performing ghusl. So after she had performed her ghusl, after she had clothed herself, she said that, oh Abu Hurairah, know that I accept that ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, that indeed that there is no God but Allah, and Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam is the messenger of Allah. Just to finish here, 3 things. Number one, be kind, fulfill their rights. Number two, with regards to our parents, speak gently, speak softly, do not speak harshly in any circumstances. And number three, make dua. The greatest benefit that we can be for our parents is we ourselves become people of value. We ourselves become something that they can look towards. The Prophet ﷺ, he says that إِذَا مَاتَ الْعَبْدِ انْقَطَعَ عَمَلُهُ. When a person dies, his actions, they cease. Three things that will benefit him. Number one is knowledge that he spreads. Number two is sadaqatun jariyah, that charity that is ongoing, i.e. building a well, building a masjid. Number three is to a pious child that makes dua for him. The greatest investment for our parents. Look at all the, I've explained, the hard work that our mothers, the difficulty our mothers go through, the expenses our fathers, our mothers expend upon us. We can repay them by continuously, number one, making dua for them, and also becoming of value. Moulana, I will finish here.